Over the years, I attended several of my friends' birthday parties when I was younger. But one memory in particular jumps out. At 15 years old, I was attending my buddy Janet's birthday sleepover. At Jenna's place, there were 5 of us in all. We used to hang out in the backyard much earlier in the day in my memory. Jenna lived in a somewhat large house with a rear patio door from the basement. The weather was great, so we hung out there. As night fell, we all sort of moved into the basement. We spent the remainder of the night there. Things went on until rather late, at which point we were all exhausted. I don't know what time we went to sleep, but the lights went out probably long past midnight. A few of us packed sleeping bags because there weren't enough couches for all of us down there. I was among those who had a sleeping bag, so I crawled inside and quickly fell asleep. However, I didn't sleep for very long. I am aware that when I awoke, it was still nighttime outside. I was not sure how long I had been asleep, but it had not been a long time. As I lay there, I looked around. As I did, I just so happened to look in the direction of the sliding glass door that opened to the patio. The moment I did, I noticed a man approaching it directly. I think this was about 20 feet away. There was just myself and my friends when I turned to face them. I turned back to the man after that. He just opened the door after approaching it with his right foot. It dawned on me that none of us had thought to lock the door. I became anxious as it slowly slid open. I feigned to sleep, and once the man had unlocked the door, I observed him walk very slowly inside. It seems like he was taking great care to avoid making any noise. He stepped inside carefully, a step or two at a time, and stood staring about. My eyes were open just enough to see what was happening. Inside, it was still somewhat dim. The man had entered via the doorway, and the windows closed were the sole sources of light. The man was standing when all of a sudden there was a sound. It was the sound of me receiving a notice from my phone, which was resting on the ground beside me. Although there wasn't much sound, it seemed much louder because of how quiet everything was. I'm positive the man heard it. When he did, he darted back out the open door he'd left and did so extremely softly and swiftly. Then he appeared to disappear around its corner. I don't know what got into me at that particular moment. All I felt to do was take action. I scrambled to my feet and ran toward the back sliding door. I slammed it shut as soon as I got there and quickly locked the door. I watched the man reappear as I was locking it. He really attempted to open the door because it was so frightening, but I had shut it just in time. The man turned and fled at that point. I walked back to my pals and made sure they were all awake. Even though the guy had left by then, we nevertheless reported him to the police. I'm relieved that I woke up in time to shut the door, even if I have no idea what he was about to do. Do you feel that tingling? That's the fear running through your veins. If you love the thrill and don't want to miss any of our scary stories, hit the subscribe button. This is the account of my most recent hotel stay, which took place during the summer. I was lodging at a hotel a short distance from a big city. The hotel was passable, if not a little bit fancier than most. I seemed to have checked into my room as soon as I arrived and then left practically right away. I spent several hours outside before eventually making my way back to the hotel at, I believe, around 10 p.m. After I made my way back to my second floor room, I discovered that I had misplaced my key. I soon discovered that it was lost and that I didn't have it with me. I was able to obtain another one by going back downstairs to the front desk. I then ascended once more and walked into my room. I just decided to go to bed because I was really weary. After getting ready, I think I slept for about 20 minutes. I don't think I slept for very long because I was awake when I woke up. My doorknob seemed to be spinning or something similar. The sound of the door opening finally cleared my confusion. It was almost midnight, and I had no idea why they wouldn't clean my room. The rear end was at the front of the room, so there was a small hallway, and I couldn't see around the corner when I peered over because of where I was in bed. A few moments later, I heard the door close as I stood up. When I finally got a good look, no one was there. It seemed to me that someone must have gone into the room and then turned around. But I had no idea why, and I had no idea who would do that. This whole thing really freaked me out, so I went to the door and peered through the peephole. I didn't see anyone yet. I assumed that the person had left. I turned to my left, intending to go back to bed. When I did, I glanced briefly toward the restroom. It was really dark in my room because all the lights were out save for a small lamp by my bed. However, I noticed that someone else was in the bathroom, and that person was staring at me. In an instant, I spun around and threw open the door before sprinting from the room. I made my way to the stairs by walking along the hallway and returning to the lobby. When I informed the front desk employee that there was someone in my room from the lobby, they came back up with me. But by the time we arrived, the individual had left. However, I made the decision to get a new room after that. Fortunately, they had a vacant room on the 3rd level when I transferred all of my belongings there. I had a good rest of the night. I'm still not sure who that individual was. I just remembered that I most likely dropped my key inside the hotel or close by. It's likely that this individual picked it up so they could enter my room. Rather than entering the room directly, they entered it, and when I spotted them, they were hiding there. After that, I'm so pleased I changed rooms. I'm also relieved that I caught sight of them early on. I'd always been a fan of Costco, the warehouse club that sold everything at unbelievable discounts, from electronics to groceries. I had no idea, though, that my subsequent visit would become a nightmare that would follow me for years to come. On a normal Saturday afternoon, I made the decision to head over to Costco and grab a few necessities. The smell of freshly baked goodies, the murmur of soothing music coming from the ceiling speakers, and the typical bustle of consumers welcomed me as I walked inside the store. I got a cart and headed to the produce aisle to start my shopping. I spotted a woman standing close by, staring at me with a strange intensity as I picked up a bag of apples. She seemed to follow me as I went to the next aisle, despite my best efforts to ignore her. I dismissed her statement, thinking she was just another customer lost in her own thoughts. However, I couldn't get rid of the impression that someone was watching me as I looked around the store. I saw the same woman, her gaze fixed on me, no matter where I looked. I made the quick decision to rush through the checkout line since I was feeling apprehensive. I noticed the woman again as I walked up to the register. She was a few customers ahead of me in line. Her expression remained blank as she continued to stare. I couldn't resist taking a quick peek at the woman every few seconds as the line moved slowly. She abruptly turned around and looked directly at me. Her eyes were vacant and frigid, and for an instant, a shiver went down my spine. I couldn't resist taking one last look at the woman as I made it to the register. I was horrified to find her gone. I looked around the store, but she wasn't there. She appeared to have disappeared out of thin air. I hastily paid for my purchases and hurried out of the store, feeling rattled. I had a terrible sense that something wasn't quite right as I packed my car. Though I was at a loss for words, I realized that I had just encountered something incomprehensible. I kept thinking about the weird woman at Costco in the days that followed. I looked through news articles and reports of such instances on the internet, but I couldn't find anything. It seemed as though I was the only one who had encountered this unnerving situation. I never really got over my uneasy feeling, even though the memory of that day started to fade with time. I kept going to Costco, but every time I walked in the door, I couldn't help but feel uneasy. I'm still baffled by what transpired that day at Costco, even after all these years. All I know is that it served as a terrifying reminder that not everything in this world can be explained. In certain cases, the most terrifying things are those that are invisible to us. If you want to see more horror stories, check out my next video.